The voice message came through just as I was standing under 40 feet of concrete and rusted pipe, adjusting a faulty gauge near what used to be platform 14. I had grease on my fingers, sweat down my back, and the stench of decades-old diesel lingering in the air. Then, she's ancient. We just need her signature to unlock the transit land buyout. After that, she can retire underground, permanently. That was my stepson Ali's voice. Clear, cold, calculated. He hadn't meant to send it to me, of course. Probably meant it for his wife or one of his real estate buddies. But fate, as always, has a twisted sense of humor. I stared at the waveform pulsing on my old phone. My hands didn't shake. After all, I've worked with steel bolts that snap like teeth when mishandled. I've rewired faulty brakes on a subway car while it hissed and screamed against my wrench. Words don't scare me. But betrayal, that kind of betrayal, from your own late husband's son, that leaves a different kind of scar. Let me tell you who I am. My name is Yara DeLuca. I'm 62, and I've spent over half my life working in transit systems most people never think about. I was the only female engineer in the Baltimore Transit Authority's entire underground maintenance division for almost 2 decades. I was there when the Red Line expansion was mapped in '93. I helped lay down cables that still hum with electricity today. And I married Walter DeLuca, contractor, consultant, and let's be honest, a charming bastard when I was 48. He had a son from his first marriage. Illy, bright, charismatic, entitled. The kind of man who shakes hands with a smile while mentally calculating the resale value of your wristwatch. Walter passed 3 years ago, lung cancer. The man never smoked a day in his life but breathed in welding fumes for 40. On his last night, he held my hand and whispered, "Yara, the map is yours. Don't let them build over it." At the time, I thought he meant it metaphorically. Now, I think he saw this coming. The setup. You see, the land under the old Red Line Phase Roman II is prime real estate now. The city wants to revive transit. The developers want to privatize it. And Ali, suddenly rebranding himself as a sustainable infrastructure strategist, wants to sell it off to some Silicon Valley group that wants to build a luxury mobility hub with metaverse add-ons and God knows what else. The only problem, there's a clause in the original agreement from 2002 that states, "No sale, transfer, or redevelopment may occur unless agreed upon by the surviving signatory of the original Red Line Phase plan." Guess who that surviving signatory is? Me, and Ali knows it. That's why he's been buttering me up for months. Dinner invites, wine baskets, fake conversations about Dad's legacy, all while setting me up to look like the sweet, senile widow who doesn't know what she's signing. But what he doesn't know is that I've kept every blueprint, every deed, every one of Walter's contingency letters, and I know exactly which switch to flip when someone tries to bulldoze over my name. Back in the dark. After hearing Ali's voice message, I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I simply wiped my hands on my coveralls, walked out of the tunnel, and called Maeve Aldrin the best damn municipal lawyer this city has ever seen. "Maeve," I said, "remember the preservation clause Walter filed in 08, the one tied to Red Line land easements?" There was a long pause. Then, "Yara, you still have it." "I am it," I said. "We need to talk before someone tries to bury me, literally." Illy showed up at my door 2 days later, all charm and cologne. He brought a bottle of red wine he couldn't pronounce and a folder he didn't want me to read too closely. "Yara," he smiled, "I just thought we could go over this little paperwork together. Nothing big, just a bit of cleanup on the old transit files." He slid the folder across my kitchen table like it was nothing more than a grocery list. Inside, a land release and redevelopment authorization document that would effectively give him the green light to sell off every inch of the unused Red Line Phase Roman II land for private commercial development. In exchange, I'd get a seat on an honorary advisory board and a 3-night cruise ticket to Fort Lauderdale. I stared at him. "Illy," I said calmly, "do you know what an engineer sees when they look at a contract?" He blinked. Opportunity. "No, we see pressure points." The line he crossed, while Illy went on about modern mobility and public-private synergies. I quietly opened a drawer beside me and pulled out a manila envelope. Inside was a certified copy of the 2002 Transit Trust Deed, complete with Walter's signature, my signature, and one line that made Illy's ambitions melt like rust under acid. All decisions regarding the reallocation of transit-designated infrastructure must be jointly authorized by surviving signatories or their legally appointed successors, ratified by city council vote. Not just my signature, a council vote, which meant Illy couldn't sweet-talk or bully me into signing a damn thing, not unless he wanted to go up against City Hall and me. I slid the paper across the table, face up. He scanned the page. His jaw tensed. "This is ancient." "So am I said, "and yet here we are." The build-up. The next few days, things got quiet, too quiet. Then I got a call from the Department of Aging. A nice-sounding man named Ben wanted to talk about my living situation. "We've had a report suggesting some signs of mental deterioration," he said gently. "Just a wellness check." I almost laughed, but I didn't, because I knew exactly where this was headed. Illy couldn't manipulate me legally, so now he was trying to paint me as incompetent, a woman past her prime, rattling around with blueprints and conspiracy theories. Good strategy, if I were stupid. But I'd been laying my track, too. While Illy had been pulling strings, I'd been pulling records. Tax filings showing his LLC was in debt. Proof he'd already begun pre-selling portions of the Red Line corridor to silent investors. Emails leaked to me by a city clerk, detailing how he tried to fast-track zoning approvals without proper ownership. And then, the kicker, an anonymous tip sent to my lawyer, a voice message from Illy's wife, complaining that Illy had bet everything on Mom dying quietly. The move, so I made a few calls of my own. I contacted Baltimore's Historic Transit Preservation Society. Yes, it's a thing, and offered them exclusive oversight of the unused Red Line corridor in exchange for formal historic designation. Once the status changed, no commercial development could touch it without a preservation board hearing. And guess who now sat on that board? Yours truly. The trap snaps shut. Illy scheduled a press conference to announce his vision for the future of transit. He'd sent me a smug invite in advance, along with a final version of the contract. "Last chance," he wrote. "You can sign it on stage and be a part of this, or be forgotten." I wore my old transit jacket to the event. Steel buttons, faded name patch, oil-stained elbow. I walked on stage after he finished promising an eco-smart mixed-use mecca, and took the mic like I used to take a torque wrench. "My name is Yara DeLuca," I said, "and I am the sole surviving co-author of the Red Line Phase Roman II Master Plan. The land you're standing on is under public transit preservation status, and the person trying to sell it to you doesn't own a single bolt of it." Gasps, phones raised, reporters whispering. And then I played the voice message from Illy's wife into the mic, crystal clear. "Just get her to sign, Illy. She's half buried already, one little push." The courthouse smelled like paper and nerves. I wore my gray suit, the same one I buried Walter in. The same one I wore the day we signed the original Red Line agreement. It still fit. So did the fire in my chest. At the front of the room sat Judge Maylena Vega, sharp-eyed, no-nonsense, and known across Baltimore as someone who doesn't tolerate real estate theater. Lucky for me, on the opposite bench, Illy, his lawyer, his wife who now looked like she'd swallowed a mouthful of lemon juice. and 2 representatives from the investment fund that had already dumped 6 figures into a project they didn't own. He wouldn't meet my eyes. Good. That meant he knew exactly what was coming. The opening salvo. Judge Vega tapped her gavel. We're here today to determine rightful ownership and development authority regarding parcels of land adjacent to the former Red Line Phase Roman II. Specifically, whether the defendant, Mr. Illy DeLuca, has legal standing to broker or redevelop said infrastructure. Illy's lawyer stood first. Your Honor, the land in question has long been inactive. It represents a financial burden to the city and an opportunity for revitalization. My client seeks only to bring economic growth to Baltimore. Ah, the old urban revitalization speech. My turn, I stood. My voice didn't shake. It never does when I know I'm holding the blueprint. Your Honor, this isn't about revitalization. This is about theft of public infrastructure, of legacy, and of legal oversight. I handed over a thick file to the clerk. Inside, certified trust documents, historic designation approvals, original schematics with my name etched on the corner. Judge Vega read in silence, then looked up, brow arched. And what's this recording I see referenced here? Oh, that part. The recording, with the court's permission, I played the voice message. Not the first one from Illy, the one from Claudia, his wife. Her voice filled the courtroom. Just get her to sign, Illy. She's half buried already, one little push. The room went cold. Illy's lawyer jumped up. Your Honor, that was a private. It was sent to the plaintiff by mistake, I said, and it reveals intent. Judge Vega leaned back. Mr. DeLuca, are you aware that attempting to manipulate an elder into signing away legal authority under false pretenses is grounds for criminal investigation? Illy opened his mouth, then closed it again. The witness switch. Next, Maeve Aldrin took the stand, my lawyer and Walter's former legal confidante. She laid out everything. The preservation clause, the trust Walter and I created in 2002, the advisory board appointments, and finally, the clause that nullifies any sale or transfer if coercion is involved. So, the judge said slowly, if Mr. DeLuca attempted to gain control under manipulative or deceptive means, the entire agreement becomes legally radioactive. Yes, Your Honor, Maeve replied. And so does any investment made under that deception. Illy's investors stiffened. Someone behind him muttered, we're pulling out. I almost smiled, almost. The final blow. Then came the email trail. One of Illy's assistants had forwarded us his entire correspondence with zoning officials, where he'd claimed I was mentally unfit, and even attached falsified medical notes. When the judge saw that, she didn't say a word for a full 30 seconds. Then she tapped her gavel twice. Mr. DeLuca, she said, I hope your developer friends brought more than champagne and Instagram renderings to this project, because you're going to need a lot of legal defense. I hereby revoke all temporary clearances, freeze any related transactions, and refer this matter to the state attorney's office for potential elder abuse and fraud. I stood up to leave. Illy finally looked at me. Yara, he whispered, voice cracked. I didn't mean to. You meant to cash me in, I said. But I'm not a check, I'm a cornerstone. And with that, I walked out of the courtroom. 3 weeks after the hearing, I stood alone in the tunnel beneath Fort Avenue. The same tunnel Walter and I mapped out in '93, back when my hair was still dark and his laugh still echoed through these pipes. Dust floated in golden shafts of light. A single rail screw lay on the ground like an artifact. The court had ruled in my favor. Illy's redevelopment licenses were voided. The Transit Trust was reinstated in full, and Walter's preservation clause, the one no one thought to read, was now Baltimore City's new headache to respect. But I hadn't come here for closure. I came here for a decision. The letter. Back home, I sat at my kitchen table and opened an envelope that had been sitting in my drawer for years. Walter's handwriting. To be opened if they come for the tunnels. Inside was a note, short, simple. Yara, you were always better at knowing what something should become. If they turn this into noise, turn it into music, make it matter. Beneath that, the deed, and a blank section that read, Beneficiary of Transit Legacy Trust. I poured myself a cup of chicory coffee and stared at the line. Who deserves a legacy? David, Ellie's assistant, the one who had leaked the email chain to my lawyer, had since quit working for him. He'd written me a long apology. Said his mother had been a train operator for 20 years and that he couldn't be part of erasing history for the sake of a shopping mall with smart escalators. If you ever need help restoring the tunnels, he wrote, I'd do it for free. I made one call, then another, then 30 more. Transit historians, local engineers, volunteer students from the Polytechnic Institute, retired electricians, artists, poets, musicians. By the end of the month, we'd launched the Red Line Revival Project, a non-profit cultural and historical exhibit built inside the very tunnels Ellie tried to sell, complete with a public reading room, art gallery, and archival train car theater. And guess who was now the legal trustee? No one, because I signed the entire legacy over to the public. The people who built it should be the ones who inherit it, I said at the dedication. The last message. A few days after opening night, I received one last message. Not a voicemail, a letter, handwritten from prison. Illy, Yara, I was wrong, not just about the tunnels, but about you. I thought you were in the way. Turns out you were the way. I'll never ask for forgiveness, but I hope you build something beautiful. I folded the letter, placed it inside the old engineer's logbook Walter left me, and locked it in the archive vault of the Red Line Museum. Some stories deserve to be remembered, scars and all. Now, every Sunday morning, I walk through the restored Red Line tunnels. Visitors line up to see the old switchboards. Children sit in the restored train car watching silent films. There's jazz playing from hidden speakers in the walls. No one whispers about inheritance. No one plots behind their mother's back. Just light, tracks, and the hum of something worth preserving. A woman once told me I was too old to matter. She was wrong. I wasn't old. I was foundational. But Margaret Yara DeLuca's story lives on every time someone listens to the Steels sing beneath Baltimore.